So I finally got around to watching the Made in Abyss movie, and oh boy, it sure was something. All of you in the comments said that this movie was way darker than the first season, and I'm here to say, it definitely is. So let's get into it, shall we? If you didn't know by now, Made in Abyss Dawn of the Deep Soul is a continuation to Season 1 and ends off at the start of Season 2. Think of this as Mugen Train the movie for Made in Abyss. You can't really get by without watching it. Now let me start off by saying that this movie looks amazing. Everything from the giant blue beam at the center of Bondrewd's base to the intense action scenes. It all just looks fantastic. Also, I don't know how, but the world feels even more eerie than Season 1. There was no doubt in my mind that Bondrewd was up to even worse things than we've seen him do previously. And whoever in the comments of my last video that said something about fathers packing lunchboxes? Too soon, man. Too soon. Anyways, to start off, I want to talk about the characters. First off, Riko? She's gotten better. Well, a lot of you broadened my perspective on her character and role in the team a bit, so that helped too. Before, I understood her role fine, but was annoyed by her lack of, well, everything else. But now that I've watched Dawn of the Deep Soul, I understand how the three contribute to each other. Riko is the brains, who knows pretty much everything that humanity has discovered on the Abyss. Reg's the muscle, who seems to be able to take on even the toughest enemies when he's provided the right direction. And Nanachi's the strategist, who combines theirs and Riko's knowledge to devise plans to defeat enemies and maneuver the dangerous terrains of the Abyss. Usually though, Riko and Nanachi's roles blend together, which makes them more valuable as a unit. This, plus the movie, for the most part, has improved my opinion of Riko in a ton of ways. Now with the addition of a third member, I feel like especially her role in the team is much more solidified. Coupled with the fact that Reg now is more familiar with using his body in combat, there's less of a rush for Riko to become more physically dependable. It really felt to me like the purpose of this arc was to test them for what's to come while also making them stronger. Riko once again learns that the Abyss is not to be taken lightly and that people are sometimes cruel and complicated. Cause sometimes Riko's carefree nature can be a hindrance, so I feel it's good that she's learning to stay on her toes. Nanachi learns to not let fear control them and to leave the past behind so that they can keep moving forward. I really appreciated the development since it makes Riko and Nanachi more prepared for what's to come. We also get to see some of the destructive power Reg is capable of, and it makes me wonder about where he came from and who or what made him. Like, obviously he comes from the Abyss and is technically a relic, but I'm curious about his backstory the most since there's just so many unanswered questions. And since we're talking about characters, I'm gonna move on to Bondrewd since he's technically the first actual antagonist we've seen so far in the series. Bondrewd is a consciousness that is connected to a relic called Zoaholic. Zoaholic is a relic that allows the user to input their soul into other bodies. Since the relic is too big to move, Bondrewd uses his helmet as a sort of conduit between it to connect to different hosts that he's prepared, just in case one gets damaged too much or perishes. At least that's what I understood from what they explained. Now, Bondrewd is an interesting antagonist because I hate him so much, but that's also part of what makes him a good villain. He's a man who sacrificed his humanity for absolute knowledge of the Abyss and stops at nothing to achieve his goal. And at some point you feel like he has no moral value for human life. But then at some points you see him show compassion and love for others. Which makes you beg the question, is it real or just a ruse to use people for his experiments? It's a rare phenomenon that you don't see too often in media where you don't know the true personality of the quote-unquote villain. Since most antagonists usually are easy to read not in their motives but whether they are just a good or bad person genuinely. And that in a sense makes him a great antagonist. We the viewer at this point can decide if he's just someone who is truly a monster or someone who is sick and still seems to have some morality to them. Unless there's more to him in the manga, I truly don't have the answer yet. But I would love to see more about Bondrewd's backstory and see how he turned out the way he is now. Because he was the main driving force of this movie and he's part of what made it such an awesome experience. And I don't forgive him for what he did to Prushka. Now, onto the things I disliked, and this is mainly a complaint I have with the series as an entirety. And that is the sheer amount they show on screen, whether it's gore, vomit, or even someone pissing themselves. Honestly, if it happened once, it would have been fine, but time again, it proceeds to show it, and honestly, I'm not for it. It's just nasty most of the time, and it feels like it's an unnecessary detail. Also, the child torture is especially brutal in this movie, but I understand the purpose of that at least, since it shows how cruel people can be. Anyways, those are the only really minor complaints I have. Otherwise, the movie was fantastic. The music was great as well. Shout out to Kevin Bacon once again for the awesome soundtrack. Overall guys, everything about this movie was amazing, and I consider it to be one of the highest points in the series so far. So I'm giving Made in Abyss Dawn of the Deep Soul a 10. A score I don't give out too often, and for my favorite experiences in all of anime and manga. So anyways guys, did you love Made in Abyss Dawn of the Deep Soul? Or did you think it was just alright? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and brings me one step closer to doing this full time. Also guys, if you want me to make a video on season 2 once it's over, let me know down in the comments as well. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks guys. Later.